Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director. Chargers fans, I got an awesome video for you guys today covering the position of cornerback and safety when it comes to the best NFL free agents in 2022. I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit here. I love some of the value guys that we found on this list, under the radar dudes that I think could make a huge impact and be pretty friendly against the cap. Now, we're just about 5 weeks away from the opening of free agency in 2022. Time is starting to run out, so I want to get all these names out into the universe before decisions must be made. We've been covering every position in this series. For the other positions like edge, wide receiver, even running back and stuff like that, check out the links in the description. Should be a good time. Now, again, today we're covering the corners and safeties for the Chargers, some huge under-the-radar guys, and I'm excited to share with you guys. Because both positions for the Chargers do feature some big names like Derwin James and Asante Samuel Jr., but I think the Chargers really need to add some playmakers to their secondary, which still finished 10th in the league this last season. Kind of surprising, right? I thought actually we would be a little bit lower than that. Now, Brandon Staley is on a mission to recreate his legendary 2020 Rams defense. I do think he needs some bigger defensive backs out there to help replicate what he had with Jalen Ramsey. So, question in the comments before we do get started: should the Chargers even consider signing a free safety with Nasir Adderley having kind of a good year, a pretty good breakout season with the Chargers, or do we take that cap space and spend it elsewhere? With that, let's get into this one. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers off-season content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The 2020 best available free agents at the positions of cornerback and safety. All right, the Chargers at this point, Asante Samuel Jr., Michael Davis look pretty solid. They got a good safety in Derwin James, but I do think we need to add some names to this list. And we're going to go from the lowest to the highest as far as who I think the Chargers should be targeting. Got a lot of names on this list, so let's just jump on into number 14, Darius Williams, 28 years old. Honestly, 14, this is actually a little lower on the list than even I had expected. But when doing my research, as shocking as it is to see him this low, he did fall off a little bit in 2021. Now, in his final year with Brandon Staley, Williams ranked 4th in the league among cornerbacks, which is super impressive. But again, he fell off in 2021, ranking 79th. Could Brandon Staley be the missing link in this puzzle? You never know. It might be enough incentive for Staley to want to bring him into the fold with the Los Angeles Chargers. He's a bit undersized at 5'9", but his plays are bigger than his frame for sure. I would see him and view him as maybe a solid cornerback too in this league if you wanted to pair him with Asante Samuel Jr. This could maybe push Mike Davis a little bit lower on the depth chart, but still, it wouldn't be a bad idea taking a second look at Darius Williams. He's projected a 3-year, $40 million contract, an average of $13.3 million a season. Next up, let's get some veteran names on this list, starting with Patrick Peterson. Now, Peterson, I know what you guys are thinking. Maybe a little bit washed. His best days are behind him, but hear me out. Peterson is a very interesting name on this list, okay? He's got the size, he's got the speed, but he's really been lacking in man coverage lately. That used to be his best trait, and as of late, he has been falling off a little bit. He's been on the decline. But he also alluded to something interesting this offseason. He's considering switching to the safety position this season. Okay, now you've got my attention, Pat Pete. You guys remember last season we were talking about maybe bringing in Richard Sherman if he were to switch to safety, because that's kind of what some of the bigger NFL cornerbacks do late in their careers, switch to safety so they can try and keep everything in front of them. The same case can kind of be made for Patrick Peterson here. I still think he's a solid talent, and I would really be interested in seeing what he's got mixing in with Nasir Adderley and Derwin James out deep. Honestly, to me, this is a stab in the dark, but he could pan out as a short-term playmaker in the secondary for the Bolts. He's projected a 1-year, $6 million contract. Again, more of like an experiment sort of signing, and honestly one that I wouldn't mind taking if you're the Chargers. Next up at number 12, Dante Jackson. This was pretty tough as far as compiling this list because I know what the Chargers need. The Chargers need a true number one corner while we're developing Asante Samuel. He's going to be fantastic, but I do think we need a number one guy. But you know what we also need? We also need speed, okay? And Dante Jackson might be exactly what the Bolts are looking for. With top-notch speed, he could be the man we call upon versus the league's fastest wide receivers. Guys, we're going to have to deal with, Tyreek Hill for years to come. We're going to have to deal with Jerry Jeudy. No longer, Henry Ruggs and all that, but still a lot of fast wide receivers. The league is moving towards a high-speed level game when it comes to the receiver position. We need guys that can, keep up with him. He graded decently, but might have fallen victim to the large number of cornerbacks in Carolina. But again, the biggest thing that makes me excited about Dante Jackson is his speed, and maybe a manageable contract would make him worth a shot. He's projected a 2-year, $20 million contract, an average of $10 million a season. All right, guys. We got an oldie but a goodie coming up in this next one. You guys know the name in Devin McCourty. I know what you're thinking. The dude is way too old, right? And at 34 years old, you would be right, Bull fam. This guy is definitely higher as far as age in the NFL. But this kind of fits the margin of the win-now mentality that we've been talking about. The Chargers need to go out there, get those playmakers. Veterans are actually not a bad idea in terms of what the Chargers should be doing right now. And I think McCourty has still been playing at a high level despite his age. Now, in terms of playmaking and veteran experience, he really does have it all. It really is his age holding him back as far as getting signed this offseason. Now, if the Chargers want a reliable deep safety, I think McCourty would be a solid short-term option for them. He's projected a 2-year, $12 million contract, an average of $6 million a year. Okay, not too expensive. Honestly, he brings a lot of experience with him. Next up at number 10, breaking the top 10 of this list, we got Jordan Whitehead, 24 years old, formerly of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I don't know if Whitehead's going to be available, nor the other cornerback, the other defensive back from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season, but I view Whitehead as a very decent safety who plays at a high level, okay? He's only 24 years old, and I do think his contract would be very friendly towards the cap. Now, in my mind, he's the perfect kind of guy to mix in there with Nasir Adderley and maybe even an Alohi Gilman as far as, who's out there and who's maybe covering the backup. So, I don't know. This would afford Derwin more snaps in the box, and I'll cover that a little bit more in a moment with another player further down this list. He's projected a 3-year, $18 million contract, an average of $6 million a season. So, Jordan Whitehead, not a bad option. Still young, a lot of room to develop. Next up at number 9, this is actually a pretty decent one that I think the Chargers might actually consider this offseason, in Javarious Ward, okay? Ward has slowly been developing into a decent cornerback in the NFL. He saw his best season in 2021. And again, at 25, the dude's still got a lot of time to develop and get even better. Where he does really excel is in man-to-man coverage. Playing on the outside with the 6'1" frame, that's a big strength that the Chargers definitely need to improve this offseason. Of course, we do have Mike Davis, who is around 6'2", but does struggle mightily in coverage. In my opinion, though, the best trait that Javarious Ward carries with him is his elite tackling. The dude only missed 5% of his tackles in 2021, ranking among the best in cornerbacks in the NFL. I do think that's something the Chargers desperately need to improve on this season as well. How many missed tackles did we see in 2021, dudes? I think Javarious Ward does have something to offer. He wouldn't be especially expensive either. Projected for a 3-year, $28 million contract, an average of $9.5 million a season. All right, speaking of them dirty Kansas City Chiefs, we got another one here on the list, one that I know a lot of people were talking about during the Pro Bowl, right? During the Pro Bowl, Derwin James was seen maybe doing a little bit of recruiting with the Honey Badger. Does Tyvon Matthew want to come to the Chargers? He was talking to maybe he does. Where's the contract? Matthew, in my opinion, watching him throughout the course of his career with the Arizona Cardinals and now the Kansas City Chiefs, he's one of the most lethal safeties in the league, okay? That's why they call him the Honey Badger, right? What he lacks in size, he makes up for with big plays and bigger hits, man. This guy throws a lot of force into his tackling. He's not what he used to be. I'll go ahead and admit that. I think when he signed with the Kansas City Chiefs, he started to decline a little bit slower than other players, but still, I don't know. Imagining him with Derwin is just something that gets me very excited. Tyvon Matthew, again, a big name, is projected a 3-year, $48 million contract, an average of $16 million a season. All right, coming in at number 7 on this list, Stephan Gilmore, 31 years old. Chargers fans, I understand what you're thinking, okay? With the Chargers' recent history with aging cornerbacks has not been good with Chris Harris Jr. and Casey Hayward Jr. in recent years, but Stephan Gilmore doesn't fit that mold in my opinion, okay? He's proved that he's still got the juice after all these years with a stellar year with the Carolina Panthers. In my opinion, he's one of the best man corners in the league still to this day, right? He'd immediately elevate this unit to elite status, really opening up what Brandon Staley and the coaching can do with their plays and their scheme a little bit, right? I'm not quite sure if Stephan Gilmore will be available. However, the Carolina Panthers did go out there and trade for him. But I do think that if he does become available, this is one the Chargers definitely have to consider. He does lack a little bit of speed, but he does make up for it with huge plays in coverage. And the Chargers right now are lacking a true number 1 cornerback. This is exactly what Stephan Gilmore offers, okay? He's projected a 2-year, $14 million contract. I think that's actually incorrect. I think it's a 2-year, $28 million contract, an average of $14 million a season. All right, now we're getting into the portion of video that gets me really excited. We're kind of flying through this one. Not as many names, in my opinion, that stand out to me as far as cornerback and safety for the Chargers specifically. But I do have a couple of under-the-radar guys that get me super excited. We're going to start off here with Jayron Kearse, 28 years old, safety, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, Kearse, in my opinion, could be an under-the-radar monster signing in terms of scheme flexibility. Let me explain this, okay? The Cowboys in 2021 rolled out with Kearse in combination with a safety linebacker hybrid in Keanu Neal, all right? And this really worked out for them. Both of these players found tremendous success, and honestly, this is something I'm hoping the Chargers do as well in 2022, okay? You got Derwin James out there playing deep. You want a big safety in the middle that has decent pass coverage as well as size and playability versus the run. Your guy's going to be Jayron Kearse, okay? He carries very little financial risk and plays big. The dude is 6'4" with impressive grades, rushing the passer, excuse me guys, as well with the 79.1 grade. He's fantastic all around, and I do think he would be an under-the-radar talent for the Chargers. So again, this is a guy that you're going to mix in there with Alohi Gilman, the Chargers' backup strong safety, and maybe Nasir Adderley as well. And this offers you flexibility as playing Derwin James in the box or Jayron Kearse in the box back and forth. This is what the Cowboys did with Keanu Neal and Kearse in 2021. This is something I really think the Chargers should consider, okay? Because the Chargers are scary enough with Derwin James. Imagine Derwin and Derwin 2.0 manning the box and over top at all times. This is a signing that I think would be a home run in my humble opinion. He's projected a 3-year, $15 million contract, an average of $5 million a season. I see no reason why the Chargers shouldn't implement that kind of mindset in 2022. Next up, breaking into the top 5. We knew this man was going to be on the list, okay? And the only reason he's not a little bit higher is, again, because of the question I asked at the beginning of the series here. You know, would the Chargers be wise to be spending money on the free safety position when we already have a pretty decent safety at Nasir Adderley? This could be one of those moves that maybe changes my mind, okay? I don't think we should do that, but if we went out and got Marcus Williams, that would definitely be a game changer in terms of we want to go out there and win now. We want to bolster this pass defense now. Marcus Williams would carry a pretty hefty price tag, but he does fit that mentality. Now, Williams, in my opinion, is one of the best secondary players in the league still to this day, right? Consistent over the last 5 seasons. I think he's graded like above 80, like the past 3 years or something like that, the last 3 years in a row. Only 25 years old, so there's some longevity to his play. I don't know, man. In terms of coverage downfield, he's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the playmaking skills. He's one of the more consistent defenders in the league, no doubt. So Marcus Williams, you know the man. He would be expensive, but he would definitely bolster a Chargers secondary with that signing. He's projected a 4-year, $64 million contract, an average of $16 million a season. Definitely pricey, but that's a big move, and big moves win championships. Am I wrong? Next up at number 4, and this is another shocking name. You're going to see this high on the list. I've got DJ Reader of the Seattle Seahawks, only 25 years old. And again, this one shocked me. But Reed, in my opinion, has slowly been developing into one of the league's best corners, right? He lacks a little bit of size. I will say that. He's only around 5'9", but he excels in big plays, even against the run with a grade of 85.8. That's exactly the kind of guy I think the Chargers want to add to this roster. And like we were talking with Darius Williams earlier here on the list, Staley and the Rams saw huge production out of Darius Williams in his time there, right? I think DJ Reed could do that for us this season, right? If Staley wants a guy that does what Darius Williams does, I think DJ could be the dude. And honestly, he's just been looking so impressive in his time developing over the past couple of seasons. I think this is definitely one of those under-the-radar signings that Chargers fans should definitely get very excited about. And he's also projected a very friendly contract. I love everything about signing DJ Reed this season. He's projected a 3-year, $27 million contract, an average of $9 million a season. I love it. I absolutely love it. Again, Brandon Staley would know exactly what to do with this dude, and he's just been getting better and better, and he's only 25 years old. He could develop into one of the best corners in the league in the next 4 or 5 seasons, mark my words. Actually, I would say a lot sooner than that. Next up at number 3, cracking the top 3 of this list, we got Carlton Davis, 25 years old. And again, this one shocks me again, too. I thought Carlton might be my number 1, but after doing a lot of research, he does fall to number 3. Still, top 3, this would be a huge signing for the Chargers, okay? Davis is a young, talented corner that maybe flies under the radar for some people as like the elite guy to go pick up this season. He's 6'1", right? He's got the length to go up against some of the biggest targets in the NFL, and he saw a lot of success in Tampa Bay as their number 1 cornerback. He's got superb man coverage, and this is something I hope the Chargers start implementing a little bit more this season. I think the Chargers in Week 4 versus the Kansas City Chiefs, that game we went into Kansas City and whooped their butts, they played 70% in man coverage in cover 1, right? I think that's something the Chargers should play around with a little bit more this season. Try and bolster your roster to adhere to man coverage a little bit better with your cornerbacks and safeties. Carlton Davis would be the perfect signing to make a step in that direction. Now, Carlton Davis did suffer a quad injury in Week 4, and he missed 7 games this season. That is a bit of a red flag. But I don't know. I still think he doesn't excel in terms of turnovers either. I think he's only had like 1 or 2 turnovers this season. Still, I think he's without a doubt a solid talent on the outside, and he does scream cornerback 1 to me, and that's what the Chargers need. He also carries with him longevity, only being 25 years old. Now, he's projected a 1-year, $17 million contract. I could see that being a 2 or 3, $30 or $40 million contract pretty easily, but still Carlton Davis, among the top cornerbacks on my list of potential signings. Now at number 2. This is probably the name that gets me most excited about making this video again today, okay? Because this is one of those guys that's going to fly under the radar. I'm going to show you guys the name here in just a second. I don't think anybody's going to know who this is, but it gets me excited. I'm going to explain right here, okay? Rasul Douglas, 26 years old, formerly of the Green Bay Packers. Okay, let me explain, guys. Number 2 on this list for a big reason, a couple of big reasons. Remember when the Chargers nabbed Casey Hayward in free agency? Found tremendous success. He was one of the best, value signings for the Chargers in a long time. He came from the Green Bay Packers. I think we could do it again, dude. Douglas was a breakout player for the Packers this last season, logging 5 interceptions and 2 touchdowns from the cornerback position. I want to see this Casey Hayward story happen again. I think Rasul Douglas is the guy. 6'2", great speed and tackling. He's very good versus the run, too, guys. Some of the tackles I saw from this dude was absolutely insane. He absolutely fits the archetype of what the Bolts desperately need as far as playmakers in their secondary. I love Rasul Douglas, man. I would say Rasul Douglas, as far as the 2022 free agency offseason period, right? I think Douglas is my under-the-radar signing of 2022, like the top guy, because I think he's ready to explode in the same way that we saw Casey Hayward explode when we signed him from the Green Bay Packers so many years ago, all right? And the cherry on top with a guy like Rasul, who I think could be our number 1 cornerback this season, the cherry on top is that a signing like this carries fantastic upside and leaves enough cap space to really tackle other positions like the defensive line, which we've heard over and over is going to be the focal point this offseason. Okay, you guys ready to hear what he's projected as far as cap? He's projected a 3-year, $27 million contract, an average of $9 million a season. I love it. I love everything about it. It does remind me of Casey Hayward's contract as well when we signed him from the Packers. I love everything about Rasul Douglas. He's my number one under-the-radar signing, and I hope the Chargers definitely have them at the top of their list as well. Rasul Douglas, absolutely huge. Only 26 years old as well. Again, very close to the age that we signed Casey Hayward. Everything about this gets me excited. This is the guy I want you guys to be like, oh my God, if we sign him in this offseason, maybe because of this video, you guys know who he is, and we all get excited together. And lastly, number one, I think you guys know who this is going to be. At number one on this list, the biggest impact the Chargers could make as far as the secondary this offseason is going to be J.C. Jackson. Okay, you guys know this. We talked a lot about it during the Pro Bowl, during this offseason. J.C. Jackson is the most exciting name at DB this year in free agency. Okay, he has led the league in total picks since 2017. Total picks, mind you. He's been absolutely fantastic. Right? Every time he's on the field, even in the Pro Bowl, he made some big plays. A playmaker in terms of man-to-man coverage and turnovers. You guys want to know how many turnovers this guy's had in the last 2 seasons? J.C. Jackson has 17 interceptions over the last 2 years. Oh my goodness. Is there any player more valuable in free agency than J.C. Jackson as far as, defensive backs are concerned? I think not. Because, again, the Chargers were at the bottom of the pack with only 11 picks total in 2021. 11 picks. They could change that dramatically by signing a guy like J.C. Jackson, man. Jackson is what the Chargers, in my opinion, were hoping to get when they signed Chris Harris Jr., right? A dominant slot cornerback who can play outside as well. I don't know. I think if the Chargers decide to go all in and grab the best corner on the market, it's going to be JC, and it would make me absolutely ecstatic. He'd immediately slot in as our best cornerback, mixing in with Dante Samuel Jr. You would likely see those guys, share responsibilities outside and in the slot. JC, dude, if you're going all in, if you're going to make a huge signing in the secondary, it's going to be him. He's projected a 4-year, $72 million contract, an average of $18 million a season. Okay, now where does this leave me? What's the bottom line in this video? What do I think, with all this information, what do I think the Chargers should do? Well, the DB market, again, is not as lucrative as other positions in free agency this season. However, I do see a lot of potential for under-the-radar guys this year, okay? Rasul Douglas and Jaron Kearse, man, if you were to sign those guys, they would only account for around $6 million total in 2022 with the proper, contract structuring, right? $6 million to get both those guys on the roster. And honestly, their upside alongside talent like Derwin James, Asante Samuel, and Nasir Adderley, I think that's enough to get me excited about the secondary, okay? Especially just like the upside of what would happen if all these guys paired together, okay? I would certainly not be opposed to signing a guy like J.C. Jackson. Of course I would be excited. However, we do need to remember that our pass defense wasn't as bad as we all thought this season, ranking inside the top 10, okay? There are bigger fish to fry when it comes to improving the Chargers defense, more specifically in the trenches and with our pass rushers, okay? And again, guys like, Kearse, that dude also offers upside as far as a pass rusher. Rasul Douglas offers upside as a run stopper, good run defense versus this guy. It all just kind of fits like a puzzle and gets me very excited, okay? I'm ready for another Casey Hayward story with the Los Angeles Chargers. In my opinion, with all these guys in the list, I'm signing Rasul Douglas. I'm signing, Kearse and those under-the-radar guys, I think, mixed in with the veterans that we have now and, the young talent like Asante Samuel Jr. is enough to, I think, really elevate that unit without spending a lot of cap. That kind of, relief in the cap space situation allows you to pursue guys like Sebastian Joseph Day and Von Miller and Chandler Jones and those other huge names that can make a big impact, on the defensive trenches. So I don't know. I love everything about it, man. Well, guys, in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts, okay? I know this is not as maybe exciting as the other guys maybe on defense that we've already covered. There were some huge names in that video, but this video is unique in terms of the under-the-radar guys is what gets me excited, and that really helps out the cap and really helps us build a young team from the ground up. I absolutely love the under-the-radar guys in this video. So you guys let me know your thoughts on how you would structure this. If you guys really want J.C. Jackson, how would you structure that as far as his contract? And what other guys would you bring in alongside that? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up, stay frosty, and hit that like and sub button on your way out if you did enjoy what you saw here. Take care, everybody.